Welcome, one and all, to Stoniecast number 71 of Thoughts and Hunches, making money in bunches and sucker punches. Your boy Stony is back for the 71st time, and I'd like to welcome all my fellow hoodlums, scumbags, lowlifes, hustlers, cheats, foul-mouthed, raging alcoholics, fienders, degenerates. You're back, and you keep coming back because I keep delivering. I mean, I guess at this point, all I should say is, you're welcome. Plain and simple. Yeah, you're welcome, because all I've been doing is winning, period. If you're new to the show, let me explain how this works. It's very simple. I give you my best plays of the week, college football and pro football, and we all cash tickets. That's how it's been going so far. I'm on an unbelievable roll right now, and as hot as I was going into last week, I got even hotter. That's right. College football right now, I'm out of my mind. Nobody can stop me. NFL was so maddening last week. But it was still a good week. I mean, it was profitable. I started the NFL week at 8-2, but went 2-4 down the stretch. So wound up 10-6, which is solid. And I'll take 10-6 every single week. Don't get me wrong. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. College, totally different beast. Last week, NCAA, 14-4. Yeah, 18 picks, hit 14 of them. I've been doing this for a while now, dating back to the blog days, for those of you who remember the blog. I mean, I challenge anybody to give 18 picks and hit 14 of them. It just doesn't happen. All right, but it happens here, right? And I challenge anybody to give 60 picks this early in the season and hit 44 of them, because that's what's happening. That's right, all for free. Keep in mind, every single thing that I'm doing, I'm giving you for free out of the goodness of my heart, for a way for all of us to get paid. And that's what's happening right now. I don't charge you. I don't need anything from you. Just every now and then, how about a attaboy, Stone. Good job, Stone. Keep it up, Stone. Something like that. If you're new and you want these picks every week, hit the little subscribe button down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. It'll be right there this way. You don't have to look for it anymore. You will be notified every single time a new video goes up. 90% of the time, it's on a Friday night around this time. So anyway, the numbers last week, 24-10 overall. That's 70.59% overall from just last week. Yeah. That leaves us NCAA football now 34-10 on the season. 77.27%. Again, I've been doing this long enough, and I've told you many times, 58% is great. 60%, and you're a Hall of Fame handicapper. 77%, please, you know. It's just, yeah, right now, I'm basically unstoppable. Now, it's a cruel world, and the sports gaming world, there ain't nothing more cruel than that. So we know that the crash is coming, right? As long as it doesn't crash too hard and it doesn't hurt too hard, right? But in the meantime, roll with it. When you're hot, and you keep going, and you never leave the table while on a heater. So 34-10 in college football on the season, 77.27%. NFL last week, 10-6. Our first week one of the NFL, 10-6, 62.5%. I'll take that all year, right? It's just a step down from the NCAA where we've been. So overall now for the season, 44 wins, 16 losses, 73.33%. Yep. I mean, hey, you know, what are you going to do? Except move on and win more. So here we go. Week number 3, NCAA football, noon Eastern time, Saturday afternoon on ESPN2. This one's the well, formerly the Carrier Dome. Now it's the JMA Dome up in Syracuse. You got The 2-0 Syracuse Orange, the 2-0 Syracuse Orange are 1-point favorites over 1-1 Purdue. Purdue comes in, right, with a loss to Penn State in week 1 and a win last week over Indiana State 51-0, which kind of got them back into their swing, even though with Penn State they had many chances to win that game and kind of shot themselves in the foot. Jeff Brom has done a fantastic job in West Lafayette. Quarterback Aiden O'Connell, and the combination between him and wide receiver Charlie Jones right now is basically second to none. Charlie Jones, if you haven't heard of him before, let me explain something to you right now. A couple weeks into the season, nation's best 21 catches, right? 286 yards and 4 touchdowns already, right? He's just off to an unbelievable start. Well, Syracuse is going to have to be up to the task to slow him down. Syracuse doesn't go 3-0 very often. Dino Babers is in his 6th season. Everybody likes Dino. I love Dino. And Dino has a knack for covering. But they're in trouble here against the spoiler makers. Because the spoiler makers, that's what they do. They spoil things. Syracuse is only 1-point favorite. I'm going to take the light dog in Purdue. Even take them on a money line. You'll get better than +1 or -110. So Purdue, that's your first winner. Boilermakers to kick off the week. Game 2, noon Eastern time. The land of Lincoln. One of the greatest rivalries in the history of college football resumes again. Well, it resumed last year, and in a great game where Oklahoma was a top 5 team, and Nebraska gave them all they could handle until Oklahoma finally got them in the end. This game right now is just a totally different story. Oklahoma comes in 2-0, wins over UTEP and Kent State. The quarterback, the transfer, Dylan Gabriel, he transferred from UCF. He's off to an amazing start. He took over when Caleb Williams left for USC, and Oklahoma's cruising. They're ranked 6th, and they're looking at getting back into the college football playoff. Now, Nebraska comes in just in complete turmoil. Obviously, Scott Frost was fired during the week. Mickey Joseph takes over as the interim head coach. He has a long history in this rivalry. The quarterback for Nebraska, here's an interesting story here. Casey Thompson is the quarterback for Nebraska. His father, for those of you who remember back in the 80s, was Charles Thompson. Used to run the Wishbone under, I was going to say Barry Alvarez, under Barry Switzer back at Oklahoma back in the day. Well, Charles Thompson was his dad. Casey Thompson's off to a great start right now. He's got Nebraska, even though they're 1-2, and the loss last week to Georgia State, which basically started the firing process of Scott Frost. They're 1-2. They're not playing well, but Casey Thompson still got him scoring 36 points a game. And that's a touchdown Louisville. So Louisville's up 14-7 for those of you in the Louisville FSU sweepstakes tonight. So I like Nebraska here. 10.5 is a big number, especially in a rivalry game. Oklahoma has the weapons. Nebraska does not. But these are the type of games, especially when it's in Lincoln, that can rally a team. And they all come together and they all play hard. I'm not saying Nebraska wins, not by a long shot, but they're going to cover. So give me the 10.5, all of them. Noon Eastern time, Bloomington, Indiana. Indiana, Western Kentucky. The total is 61.5. I'm going to take the under in this one. Western Kentucky is off to a 2-0 start, but they got off to a rough start. It was a one-score game against Austin Peay back in week 1, lowly Austin Peay. So they really haven't been, lighting up the scoreboard. And Indiana, same thing, right? Ugly win over Illinois in week 1. They trailed 10-0 to Idaho last week in the second quarter before they finally got their Jets moving. But 61.5, too big of a number. Give me the under. And we'll roll with that. Game number 4, noon Eastern time, Columbia, Missouri. Top-ranked Georgia comes in. They're 2-0. They're 24.5-point chalk over the 1-1 host Gamecocks of South Carolina. South Carolina lost to Arkansas last week in a good game where they actually played really well. But the problem is they allowed 295 yards rushing. You ain't going to win many games when you're doing that. Spencer Rattler, the old Oklahoma quarterback, is transferred, and he is now a Gamecock. And he's been okay, if not unspectacular, but they just can't run the ball. And that's going to be a major problem here against Georgia, because Georgia's defense is Georgia's defense, and we all know what that can do. Wins over Oregon and Samford to start the season by a combined score of 82-3 for Georgia. They haven't even allowed a touchdown yet. Stetson Bennett is just absolutely going nuts, and he's leading an offense that's averaging 500 yards per game. Give me the dogs in this one. Lay the 24.5. 24.5 to lay on the road is usually unheard of, but that's me. I do things that are unheard of. Moving on, 2 p.m. Eastern time, Pasadena, California. We got UCLA versus South Alabama. Excuse me, I gotta get my sheet there out of the sight. Anyway, UCLA, South Alabama, the total is 59. UCLA is off to a hot start, 90 points in the first 2 games, but they've been sluggish, and they've had lulls where Chip Kelly's offense really isn't moving the way that an offense with fifth-year senior Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Zach Charbonnet behind him are capable of doing. 90 points is great, but they haven't played anybody, not at all. South Alabama hasn't either. They're coming off of a big-time win over Central Michigan last week, where they blew them out and put up 500 yards of offense. Quarterback Carter Bradley's moving well, but UCLA should have enough defense to keep them at bay, but at bay is still 20, 25 points, while UCLA gets into the 30s. This game goes over 59. There's your play, UCLA, South Alabama, over 59. 2 p.m. Eastern time, Ames, Iowa. Iowa State is 2-0, and they're 17.5-point dogs. They're 17.5. I really read that wrong. Iowa State is 2-0, and they're 17.5-point favorites over 1-1 Ohio. The Bobcats right now, they have a win over Florida Atlantic and a loss to Penn State. It's a trap game for Iowa State. Here's the problem. Iowa State, their big win was last week against Iowa, and it was huge because Matt Campbell, for all the success that he's had in Ames, he hadn't beaten Kirk Ferentz in Iowa. Well, he finally did last week, and a huge win, 10-7 game, ugly game, but they got it done. And now, the reason it's a trap game is because this game falls for Iowa State. It's their last non-conference game before conference play starts next week for them. And 3 of their first 5 Big 12 opponents are all ranked teams. Baylor, Texas, and OU are waiting for Oklahoma, are waiting for them. So Iowa State, this is a game that they win, but they certainly don't cover by 17.5. I like the Bobcats. Give me Ohio plus the 17.5. 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, South Bend, Indiana. 0-2 Notre Dame is 10.5-point chalk to Cal, who comes in at 2-0. Yes, that Cal Berkeley is 2-0. They got wins over 2 nobodies, UC Davis and UNLV. Quarterback is Jack Plummer. He transferred in from Purdue, and he's been okay. While certainly not, nothing spectacular, which is kind of the story of Cal's program. On the other hand, Notre Dame now, I'm lost to Ohio State, lost to Marshall. They're a mess. Marcus Freeman right now, if you go back and give him credit for give him a demerit for losing the bowl game last year against Oklahoma State, then he's 0-3 as a head coach at Notre Dame. This is an absolute must-win situation for them. Notre Dame was one of the teams that, one of the 4 losses that I had last week. And it was Notre Dame because they just, I mean, they did not show up at all, and Marshall took advantage of them. Can that happen again? Tyler Buckner, their quarterback's out. All signs point to Cal covering this number with relative ease. At 10.5, I'm going to take Notre Dame. I'm going to lay the 10.5 and see what the Irish can do. Give me the Irish, minus 10.5. 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Allegiant Stadium, Las Vegas, Nevada. UNLV is 2.5-point favorites over North Texas. North Texas has a win over Texas Southern and a blowout loss to SMU. And it's a really bad defense. North Texas really has struggled to keep other teams out of the end zone, even with their first win over Texas Southern. UNLV, on the other hand, they come in at 1-1. They beat Idaho State in week 1, and they lost to Cal last week in what was actually a really good game. And UNLV had their chances and probably should have won this game down the stretch. But they did. Their offense is moving, and they're improving every week. I like UNLV at home, laying the 2.5 against the Mean Green. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Autzen Stadium in Eugene. This is my favorite matchup of the week. You got 2-0 and 12th ranked BYU coming in to take on 1-1 and 25th ranked Oregon. The total in this game is 58. Oregon has a loss to Georgia and a win over Eastern Washington, where they kind of got everything back. They have the 4th most underclassmen in the entire nation. It's a very young team, but Bo Nix, their quarterback, is a transfer from Auburn, and he's very, very seasoned. BYU, on the other hand, Kalani Sitake is one of the best coaches in the nation who just doesn't get enough credit. Maybe he will when they actually move to the Big 12 next year, but right now they're off to a hot start at 2-0 with wins over South Florida and Baylor last week. Yeah, 9th ranked Baylor. They beat them last week. Solid on both sides of the ball, and a really, really hard-hitting team, a defensive team. That's why I like this game to stay under the total at 58. Oregon can score, and so can BYU, but this ain't the Chip Kelly Ducks, and this ain't the Lavelle Edwards Cougars. So I like BYU, Oregon, under 58. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Jordan-Hare Stadium, Auburn, Alabama. Penn State and Auburn, both teams come in at 2-0. Penn State is ranked 22nd. Auburn has wins. They beat San Jose State last week, but they struggled. They have offensive line issues. They have a very good defense. What did I do there? Oh, I made a huge mistake there. That's an error that I never corrected. Excuse me. 1 second. This is so unprofessional. This drives me nuts when this happens. There. Totals 48.5. Auburn versus Penn State. I didn't write it on my actual sheet. The total's 48.5. Auburn, Penn State. Auburn's defense is very strong, but their offensive line hasn't been getting the job done right now, and they did not look good against San Jose State. Penn State, on the other hand, they have more weapons than Auburn, and their offensive line is also struggling. And Sean Clifford, God bless him, he always finds a way to win, but he always makes things interesting with an interception here and there. I'm going under in this one as well, 48.5. Penn State, Auburn, under 48.5. 4 p.m. Eastern Time, H-Town, Houston Town tonight. Houston Cougars, 8.5-point favorites, taking on the surprise start of the season, 2-0 Kansas. Kansas has wins over Tennessee Tech and a pretty nice win over West Virginia last week, where they racked up 55 points. They lead they're scoring 55 points a game. They lead the nation in scoring. Yeah, Kansas leads the nation in scoring. This ain't the defending national champion basketball Kansas Jayhawks. This is the 10-time defending losing record Kansas Jayhawks in football. Well, they're in H-Town, and Houston has wins over, or a win over Texas San Antonio, and a close loss to Texas Tech. Now, both games they've played so far have gone into at least double overtime. The first game went into triple overtime. It's just been, I mean, all their games have been close. This one won't be. Head coach Dana Holgerson, right? He's going to have his defense ready, right? Clayton Tune has that offense moving. Houston is going to be a tough out here. I'm going to lay the 8.5 and take the Cougars all day long in what should be a pretty easy win by double digits. 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Calling Baton Rouge. Hello, Samantha dear. I hope you're feeling fine. Anyway, LSU down in the Bayou. Well, 1-1. They're 2.5-point pups against 2-0 Mississippi State, who comes in red hot. LSU lost to Florida State. Yeah, they lost to Florida State a couple weeks ago, who actually just tied the game with Louisville, as I wasn't even really paying attention. But anyway, they lost to Florida State. They beat Southern last week in a glorified scrimmage. Jaden Daniels, is the quarterback for LSU, is starting to look better. He's the transfer that came over from ASU, and he's improving a little bit, small steps. Mississippi State, on the other hand, they're 2-0 with wins over Memphis and Arizona. Will Rogers is the story. He's averaging 38 completed passes per game. 38 completions per game. Think about how many times he's throwing the ball per game. But this is Mike Leach. This is the air raid offense. This is what they do. Will Rogers throwing for 9 touchdowns and 381 yards per game. Mississippi State is the better team. But, you know, the more I look at it with Auburn at home, or with LSU at home, it's always tough. Do I want to go with Auburn? No, absolutely not. No freaking way. The Chinese Bandits still suck. Brian Kelly needs to go back and sit back with his family and worry about how much his family is getting with all these big fat paychecks that LSU is giving him before they ultimately give him the buyout when they fire him in a couple years, because he won't be able to beat Jimbo Fisher or Nick Saban, the two guys that he was hired to beat. And now he's also facing the likes of Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin. Forget about it. Brian Kelly, go back with your family to Ohio, right? That's where, you know, that's where you were okay. And even, you know, back in Indiana, because they certainly miss you. Anyway, LSU, forget about it. Take Mississippi State, -2.5. Lock of the week. Moving on, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Raleigh, North Carolina. 16th ranked NC State is a 2-point favorite over 2-0 Texas Tech. NC State is 10-point chalk here, and they're at home, and they had a win over ECU at ECU, where they didn't cover in week 1, but they got the win. Then they came back to pounce and hammer Georgia Southern last week. Quarterback Devin Leary's getting better, and that defense is solid right now at NC State. Texas Tech, on the other hand, has a win over Murray State, but then last week they lost to Houston in double overtime. 10 may seem like a lot to be laying here. Texas Tech seems like the play, but right now Texas Tech doesn't have the offensive line to keep up with the edge rushers coming on NC State. So I'm going to take NC State and lay the 10. Go Wolfpack. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Seattle, Washington. This one's got the makings of a good one. 2-0 Washington. Yeah, I said 2-0 Washington is 3-point favorites over 2-0 Michigan State, who comes in with a number 11 ranking. Michigan State's got wins over Western Michigan and Akron, which means they haven't played anybody. Quarterback Peyton Thorne struggled last week against Akron. Did not look good at all. Washington, on the other hand, not exactly lighting it up by playing top-notch talent. Kent State and Portland State have been the two victims from the Cougs, from the Huskies. Excuse me, sorry, I'm getting a little excited here as Florida State's getting, you know, or Louisville's heading back into the end zone. Anyway, Washington's the play here. Lay the 3 over Michigan State. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, College Park, Maryland. 2-0 SMU, 2-0 Maryland. The total 72.5. Big number. Maryland has scored 87 points in 2 weeks. SMU has scored 93 points in two wins. 2 very efficient quarterbacks, but 2 very, very good defenses that are getting better. 72.5. Nope, sorry. This one ain't going that high. One team may hit the mid-30s, but they're not both hitting the high 30s to push this one over. SMU, Maryland, under 72.5. 9 p.m. Eastern Time, College Station, Texas. This one has the makings of being probably the game of the day. 1-1 and 24th ranked Texas A&M is at home in their 6.5 point chalk to 2-0 and 13th ranked Miami. The Canes come in with their 2 wins, 100 points scored, 20 points allowed. Yeah, Tyler Van Dyke struggled though versus Southern Miss last week. He hasn't really looked that good, but again, it's the Canes, right? They were one of my losses last week because they were winning 10-7 at halftime in a game in which they were 27-point chalk, right? They wound up winning by 24, didn't cover, forget about it. Stoney was pissed and hated everybody around him that was a Miami fan. That includes people with beards down to here that live down in South Florida. Texas A&M, on the other hand, they're coming off a brutal, demoralizing loss to Appalachian, not Appalachian, but Appalachian State. Jimbo Fisher, though, here's the number. In his 8 years that he was at Florida State, he was 7-1 versus Miami. I think that continues. I like Miami, and I like the direction they're going in. And believe it or not, I'm actually more bullish on the Canes than certain Miami season ticket holders that I know that live in Fort Lauderdale, right outside of Fort Lauderdale. But A&M, this is a game where everyone's going to jump on Miami because A&M lost last week to Appalachian. This is the time you get A&M at a reduced price. Buy low. -6. Give me the Aggies. 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Rice-Eccles Stadium, Salt Lake City. Utah, 1-1, ranked 14th in the nation. They're 21-point favorites over 1-1 San Diego State. San Diego State is a dangerous team, but they lost to Arizona in week 1. Then they came back to hammer Idaho State. And last year's game against Utah in San Diego State was a 3-overtime instant classic, right? Don't see that happening here. Even though Utah lost in week 1 to Florida, they bounced back with a thrashing job of Southern Utah last week. This is a complete team. Offense and defense, they get it done on both sides. Cameron Rising just gets better and better every single week calling the plays. Give me Utah, lay the 21. It may seem like a lot, but it really isn't. So take the Utes and lay them. 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the LA Coliseum, 1-1 Fresno State, 12.5-point pups to 2-0 and 7th ranked USC. 12.5-point favorites. USC's got wins over Rice and Stanford. They're averaging 53.5 points a game. Lincoln Riley and quarterback Caleb Williams, both transferred from Oklahoma. They're the story, clearly. The defense struggled versus Stanford last week. Really couldn't put them away early when they should have, and they just couldn't. But in Fresno State, they're going to get a team that just keeps coming. They got a win over Cal Poly SLO and lost last week to Oregon State. They've won 4 of their last 5 games against ranked opponents. Yeah, Fresno State. Quarterback Jake Hayner puts up numbers, and he's going to put up numbers tomorrow. USC wins, but they don't cover. 12.5, give me the Bulldogs. Finally, 11 p.m. Eastern Time, the Degenerate Special, in which your boy Stoney is already off to a rip-roaring 3-0 start in the Degenerate Specials. Whether you're winning on the week, well, if you've been following my picks for the year, then you're clearly winning. when you hit that degenerate special on Saturday night. But even if you're losing on Saturday night, the degenerate special, that's why it's the degenerate special. It gets you a chance to break even and get even going back into Sunday. I'm 3-0 on those games. In Tempe, Arizona State's 1-1, 20.5-point favorites over Eastern Michigan. ASU right now, quarterback Emory Jones, he's the guy who transferred over from Florida. They have a banged up offensive line. Arizona State is going to have trouble scoring this many points, especially 1 week before Pac-12 season starts. ASU wins, but I like Eastern Michigan here, plus 20.5. Give me the road dog. So there you go. There's 19 NCAA plays I just dropped on you. I mean, what more could you ask for? I gave you 18 last week, gave you 19 this week. Moving on, NFL, Week 2. Now, last night's game, before I get into a whole song and dance about the Thursday night game, I can no longer give you the Thursday night game a week in advance because the numbers aren't posted this early, right? The game's not for another 6 days. The odds makers won't put up the numbers until this week is over on Monday night. Then those numbers will start posting. So I can't give you the numbers on Thursday night. So from now on, it's going to be 15 picks in the NFL every week until the buys start. But I got the Chiefs-Chargers game last night. I got it at 3 a week ago. It moved up to 3.5. Then it ticked up to 4. Some of you were, it all depends on which side of the action you were on. If you were on my side, which was Kansas City, then you were pissed off with the backdoor cover and the way San Diego came back. But if you were on San Diego, then you were happy about it. So, it all depends on what the number was. So that's why going forward, no more picks for the following Thursday night and NFL picks. So here we go. Tomorrow, starting Sunday, Week 3 of the NFL, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Browns versus Jets. First Energy Stadium in Cleveland. Browns are 1-0. Jets are 0-1. Browns are 6.5-point chalk. The Browns beat Carolina last week. Jacoby Brissett protected the ball. He did exactly what he was supposed to do and turned the ball over to his ferocious running game. They have an excellent pass rush, and they're going to have Joe Flacco in trouble here. The Browns are the play, right? At -6.5? Nope, give me the Jets. I like the Jets. They lost to Baltimore. They didn't look very good. Joe Flacco threw the ball 59 times. You're not going to win when you do that. Robert Saleh knows this. They're going to get things together. They're not going to win this game, but they're going to cover the 6.5. Give me the Jets to start the week. 1 p.m. Eastern Time, Ford Field. Up in Detroit, Washington versus Detroit. Detroit's 0-1, Washington's 1-0, and Detroit is a 1.5-point favorite. Yes, the Lions are favorites. They lost to Philly last week, but Jared Goff, DeAndre Swift, and Jamal Williams, that's their backfield. They really need to get going, and they're going to have to get going here against Washington, who beat Jacksonville last week. And Carson Wentz could be a pretty big story. Now, their rush defense has given them trouble, and they're going to be up against it here. The Lions, DeAndre Swift could run all over them all day. But I don't see it. I'm sorry. I'm leaning towards the Commanders. I'm going to take the Commanders. I still find it, I can't say that. The Redskins, the Washington football team, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to take the Washington at plus 1.5 against Detroit. 1 p.m. Eastern Time, Superdome in the Big Easy down in the Bayou. New Orleans is 1-0, and they're 2.5-point dogs to Tampa, who comes in at 1-0. Tampa beat Dallas last week, but Tampa is a walking mash unit right now. 5 of their 7 receivers have injuries. 4 of them aren't going to play. One of the 3 that is going to play, Mike Evans, has a strained calf. Their defense has been fine, and they looked really good against Dallas. They kept everything together, but they have a problem down in the Bayou, right? Every time they go down there, New Orleans beats them. right? I like the Saints here, plus the 2.5. Famous Jameis and a very good defense should be enough to keep Brady at bay and prevent him from going off, especially if they shut down Leonard Fournette. Plus, it's a reverse turf home dog where the road team coming in plays on a different surface than the home team that is an underdog. In that case, you hit 70% of the time, and it's documented over 50 years. It's been like that. Reverse turf home dog, take the Saints plus 2.5. 1 p.m. Eastern time, Panthers Giants, Snoopy Stadium up in New Jersey. Yes, the New Jersey Giants. They got a big win over Tennessee last week where they just took over in the second half. Saquon Barkley looked like freaking God as he went off. They're 2-point favorites over a Panther team, which lost to Cleveland after they came back and it looked like they were going to win the game. Baker Mayfield did everything he could, but Baker is Baker. He's going to make mistakes. Christian McCaffrey didn't look good. Expect him to look better this Sunday. I like the Panthers plus 2 on the road at the Big Snoop. 1 p.m. Eastern time at the former Ketchup Bottle. I don't even know what it's called now, but formerly Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. You got the 0-1 Patriots coming in as 2-point favorites over the Steelers. The Steelers beat Cincinnati in week 1 in a very testy, very physical game in which they turned over Cincinnati 5 times. But Pittsburgh's offensive line is weak. They really haven't, truly settled on who their quarterback's going to be. Mitchell Trubisky's their guy, but they've got 2 other guys waiting in the wings. And Najee, not Najee, Najee. I mean, I don't know him, but I know 3 family members, and they have told me unequivocally his name is Najee, not Najee. Anyway, Najee's banged up. He doesn't look too good. And they're going to face a New England team that comes in 0-1. They lost to Miami. Mac Jones is hurting. Miami took them apart last week and beat them fairly easily. How do you think practices went for the Patriots during the week with Bill Belichick losing his first game of the season? Glad I wasn't there. Well, all I know is I like the Pats. Give me the points on the road at the former Ketchup Bottle. 1 p.m. Eastern time. TIAA Bank Field. Yeah, Jacksonville. The Jags are 3.5-point dogs to the Indianapolis Colts who come in. The Colts are 0-1. They tied with Houston last week. Matt Ryan and Jonathan Taylor, neither one of them really got going. It was an ugly game where they missed kicks down the stretch that they should have won. Can the Colts go 0-1 when everybody was picking them to win the AFC South? They can. The Jags didn't look all that great last week, right? They lost to Washington, but they came back and turned it into a game and had a chance on the last play of the game to actually pull it out. James Robinson and Etienne, the running backs for the Jags, really have to do more. And they have to take pressure off of Trevor Lawrence. It's not going to be so easy here against the Colts, who have a very good defense. But I like the Jags. I like the Jags at home, plus 3.5. They're a reverse turf home, or no, excuse me. Yeah, they are a reverse turf home dog. Colts play on turf. Jags don't. Jags are 3.5-point dogs. Give me the the Jags. 1 p.m. Eastern time, M&T Bank Stadium, Baltimore, Maryland. The Ravens are 1-0 and 3.5-point favorites over the 1-0 Dolphins. These are 2 playoff teams right here, and this could be a very good one. The Ravens beat the Jets last week and beat them pretty handily. Lamar and the defense without a running game right now, right? Because all the Ravens do is run. They haven't been running the ball. Lamar looked great last week, even without a contract. On the flip side, the Dolphins come in off of a blowout win over New England. Why? Because Tua has weapons. Tua's got a lot of weapons, and he's putting the ball downfield. I like Miami here, plus 3.5 at home. They may not win, but that hook is very valuable, so I'm going to take that hook and the Fins at home. 4 p.m. Eastern time, we move to the afternoon slate. SoFi Stadium in La La Land. 0-1 Rams are 10-point favorites over the 0-1 Falcons. The Falcons blew a huge lead to the Saints last week and lost. Marcus Mariota and Cordarrelle Patterson. I'm just not sold on Cordarrelle Patterson. I'm more sold on Mariota than I am Patterson as their feature back coming out of the backfield. Kyle Pitts is really Mariota's only weapon. The Falcons are not a good team. This is a weak defense, and it's not a good team, and they're in for some serious trouble here against the defending Super Bowl champs who have 3 extra days of rest after they lost to Buffalo at home in week 1. Matt Stafford right now and extra rest and a pissed-off Rams team. Give me the Rams, lay the lumber. This has got 3 touchdown blowout written all over it. Speaking of that, 4 p.m. Eastern time, Santa Clara 49ers 0-1, 8.5-point favorites against the 1-0 Seahawks. Levi Stadium. The Seahawks got a win over Denver. We all saw it the other night. Just a brutal, brutal game where Denver dominated the statistics, except for the biggest stat of all, turnovers. When you turn the ball over twice inside the 5-yard line, you ain't going to do very well. So they gave that game away. The Seahawks were very fortunate to get the win. And now they got to come down and they got to play a pissed-off 49er team that had to play in a monsoon up in Detroit. Rumor has it might rain in San Francisco, but 49ers are ready for it, and that line's moved down to 8.5. Give me, or I will lay those 8.5. At 10, I wouldn't be doing it. I would have taken Seattle, but at 8.5, I like the Niners. Lay them. 425, and oh yeah, no apology here, Slick, right? You should be apologizing to me for the way that your team stole a game they had no business winning. 4:25 p.m. Eastern time, Jerry World down in Arlington, Texas. Cowboys, Bengals. This one had the makings of a real good match at the start of the season. Dak Prescott's out. Cooper Rush is in. Joe Burrow last week turned the ball over 5 times. But now the Bengals and Cowboys are both 0-1. Neither one of them wants to get to 0-2. Bengals win, but it's 7.5 points. Now's the time to get Dallas while everybody's down on them with no Dak. I'll take Cooper Rush and the boys at home plus 7.5. Reverse turf home dog. Yeah. 4:25 p.m. Eastern time. Empower Field. Empower Field. How many different names has Mile High Stadium undergone over the years? Anyway, the old Mile High, the new Mile High, the Invesco. I know, I get it. Now it's Empower Field. Anyway, Denver 0-1. I just went over the story with them. You know, how they gave the game away to Seattle the other night. They're 10-point favorites over a 0-1 Texans team, which showed flashes. Davis Mills really hasn't been that bad. Him and Brandon Cooks are turning into a pretty good combination, but they cannot run the ball to save their lives. Expect a big game from Russell Wilson here. Jerry Jeudy, he's got weapons. They're going to be throwing the ball downfield. I'm going to take the Broncos and lay the points. Yes, I'm laying 10 with the Rams, 8.5 with the Niners, and 10 with the Broncos. Throwing a lot of lumber around. Let's just say that. 4:25 p.m. Eastern time, Allegiant Stadium, Las Vegas. The Raiders and Cardinals are both 0-1, but the Raiders are 5.5-point favorites at home. The Raiders lost to San Diego in week 1. The problem certainly wasn't the Carr Adams hookup. That was really nice, but they need more help. Jacobs isn't the answer as the running back. They need a feature back that can be a workhorse and carry the ball for them. The Cardinals, on the other hand, they lost to Kansas City in a game that really wasn't even close. Kyler Murray was okay, but James Conner, he can't run the ball either. Not only do I like the under in this game, my pick for this game is the Cardinals plus the 5.5. Raiders win, Cardinals cover. Give me the 5.5. Moving on, Sunday night, Bears versus Packers in Lambeau Field. Bears are 1-0. Pack is 0-1. The Pack lost to Minnesota last week. Aaron Rodgers is always the story and his young wide receivers, but they can't run the ball. For all the talk about their running game and Corey Dillon and Thunder and Lightning, no bullshit. I don't buy it. They can't run the ball, just like the Rams can't run the ball. I've been saying forever. The Bears, on the other hand, this is not a good team, right? They beat the 49ers, right? And it was basically all because the quarterback made a couple of plays. It's that simple. Right? Their defense isn't very good. They don't run the ball very well, right? But I'm going to take all those points. 10 points. Give me the Bears plus the 10. Monday night, Titans versus Bills. Titans, 10-point dogs on the road in Buffalo. Highmark Stadium. Bills Mafia will be out. The Bills are 1-0. They got extra rest. They're coming in off that win over the Rams. Josh Allen is looking like God. I'm not sold on Devin Singletary as their feature back. One guy I am sold on in this game, Derrick freaking Henry. The Titans have issues. They lost 2 guys off their defensive line that are out for the year. A.J. Brown, they need somebody to step up to take his place because he's gone. And King Henry looked like Mr. Henry. He needs to look more like King Henry. That's going to start on Monday night. They're not going to win. Bills win, but give me the Titans plus the 10. Finally, last game of the week, Monday night at the Link in Philly. Eagles are 1-0. Vikings are 1-0. I love this matchup. Eagles, two-point favorites at home. They beat Detroit last week. Their season is going to hinge on how much Jalen Hurts improves. That's the question that's going to hound them all season long. They have a very good defense. Minnesota has a very good defense. Minnesota's coming in off a win over Green Bay. And let me tell you something in case you didn't know. Kirk Cousins has weapons at his disposal. Whether it's Jefferson, or whether it's Dalvin Cook, or whether it's Thielen, they're everywhere you look, right? This is a very dangerous team. I'm going to take the Vikings on the road to knock off Philly and end the week with an outright winner on Monday night. So there you go. There's your 19 NCAA plays, 15 NFL plays. That's 34 total. That gives us 34 on the week. So 20 wins out of 34 is good enough for 58%. Like, and what did I say at the start of this? 58% makes you like an all-star. Not necessarily a Hall of Famer, but 58% is excellent. So we'll take 20 wins. Anything more than that, you know, we just got to everybody just got to turn around and bow down to your boy. So just remember these critical points. If you want to win big, you got to bet big. Scared money don't make money. To me, the action is the juice. There's money on the streets that can't be ignored. And finally, good luck to you.